Y'all know I'm from the country, so I'm gonna butcher his last name, so I'm not even gonna try to say it. I'm gonna spell it out. But welcome to DebtFreeinIT. I'm your host, Mike. This podcast is for anyone who's looking to get into the IT industry, whether it's for a career change or you're just interested. I think you come to the right place. Today's episode comes from a listener's question. So they asked if I had any advice on becoming a freelance network engineer, and also, is it possible to obtain this goal within a year? Today, I'm gonna answer this question by giving you the path I would take and have looked into if I was gonna go this route. So here's what I would do if I had the networking skills and I wanted to go freelance within a year. So let's get to it. So the first thing I recommend is to treat this like a business. So at this point, we want to decide, is this going to be a side hustle for some extra cash, or do we want to eventually scale this out to something bigger? And then what comes along with that is a lot of people tend to ask the question, should I go ahead and get an LLC before I even get started and start to get more clients? So this is something that I also go back and forth with myself a lot on. And pretty much I broke it down into two options that you can go with. So option number one, you can basically wait until you have momentum. So this is where you can go out and test the water. So you can go out, see if you can land a paying client, see if you can get a couple of gigs. And then once you solidify in your mind that your plan will work, because what this does, you can go out, test the waters. If people don't jump on your service, you go back, restructure your service until people start to jump on it. But this gives you time to test the waters without having a whole lot of skin in the game yet. But then once you solidify that your plan will work, or you got your services down pat and you're at a pretty good pricing point, then you can say, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get this LLC or file as a sole proprietor, whatever, which route you want to go. But option one gives you the time to go out, test the waters to make sure your plan will work. So option number two, of course, is you can go ahead and start that LLC, get registered as a business. This is usually the route I tend to go, all because it helps me to change my mindset. So I'm probably the king of LLCs. So once I got hip on starting LLCs, and most people make it harder than what it is. So it's, in North Carolina, it's not very hard. So every time I get an idea, whether or not if that idea fails or not, I usually start an LLC. And the main reason I do this is because it helps me to change my mindset to where, okay, now in my mind, I have a business. Now in my mind, I need to work to grow this business. So it just helps me to change my mindset. So in theory, I ain't gonna say I'm wasting the money to pay for it to get started, but I'm paying that fee just for that mindset shift. So this is one route you could go also. So go ahead and start that LLC. It helps me to change my mindset. And then along with having that LLC, you can go out and get your business account. And then also with you getting a business account, you can go ahead and buy your domain name, get your email set up. So overall, by just starting out, it makes you look more legitimate, I think. So this way, when you do start going to clients and they see that, okay, the website I'm going to is mike@mikesdomain.com. So they see that, okay, this look legitimate because whatever your company name is, that's the website they're going to. And then also, along with that, you got the bank accounts, everything to back it up. So it just makes you look more legit, especially when you start trying to get out, advertise, and start trying to brand yourself. And then along with this too, you're also going to create, your social media profile. So I don't think it's hard to build any kind of business today without those social media profiles. But once you got this LLC, and then also another thing with the LLC is basically before you come up with your name, you can search it in that database. Usually I know in North Carolina, we go to the Secretary of State. You can search the name you want to use and it comes up and let you know if that name is already being used. So once you choose that name, then pretty much, like I said, you go out, buy the domain, get your email set up. Overall, I think it gives you a better package to present. But either way, you're not going wrong, because actually with the first option, you can still go ahead and have your name and everything. You just don't have it registered, and you can still go out and market yourself. So it's just something for me about doing the LLCs, which helps me change my mindset. So so far, like I said, I've done a lot of things that has failed. One of the first things I did an LLC on was back in the day, I was interested in club promotions, party promoting. So me and my partner, we had an LLC for that. And that's where I kind of learned about the LLCs and how to get them and things like that, which is it's not nothing complicated at all. So if anyone's trying to charge you to do it, definitely don't pay them because you can figure it all out for yourself. So the next step is after we figure out which route we're going to go, if this is a side hustle, do we want to grow to something bigger? Then we figure out which direction with our business we're going to take. The next thing is we need to figure out our services and our rates. So I'm a firm believer that nothing new is created under the sun. With that being said, it means that everything that we try to do or every idea you have, usually that idea ain't brand new. Usually there's someone else doing something similar or doing the exact same thing. So what I would do if I was you, I would figure out who in my area is doing the same thing. A lot of times you can turn to a lot of MSPs if you got some of those local in your area, some smaller computer repair shops, because a lot of times they do go out and offer services to different businesses around your area. So this is where I would figure out who's doing something similar to what I'm doing. And then basically I would give them a call. Now I wouldn't give them a call and saying that, hey, I'm looking to be your competition, so I want to know what you charge. But I would give them a call as a customer and basically go through and get the rundown of what they may charge for a couple services. This way, it gives you a roundabout figure where you can start at. So this is where you can say, okay, they've been doing this for 30 years. They charge $150 to go out and, let's say, repair a PC, or they charge $1,000 to go out and set up a network. Okay, let me come in a little bit under. So you come in a little bit under, or you may want to come in a little bit higher. Just depends on how comfortable you are. But going out and calling these places will give you a good idea of what you can kind of charge. And you see this done in more than just IT. A lot of times, if you look at different plumbing businesses that get started, a lot of times if you ever research them, a lot of times they're around the same price as other plumbers in your area, because at some point in time, that person starting that plumbing business called around to the other plumbing businesses as a customer to kind of see what they was charging. That way I know what I can charge, and I know that, okay, if it's an affordable price, or I know if I want to come in a little bit lower since I'm just starting and I really need the work. But I say, figure out your services and figure out your rates. So like I said, doing market research will help you out a lot in this category, because you call around to places that's doing something similar, you kind of get their fees. If there's no one local in your town, spread out larger. Go to a larger town, the next largest town close to you, and see what they're charging, because your goal is from here, or at least my goal would be to try to branch out to the larger city. In your small town, you may have good clientele, but usually that clientele may not be able to afford to pay what you're trying to make. So this is where you're going to go to those large companies, or maybe you can go ahead and even call a couple of MSPs and let them know that, okay, if you need a network engineer, or if you need someone for any kind of networking routes, that I'm available, any kind of networking roles, or any help with anything networking related, let them know that you're available. So at this point, like I said, figure out the services, figure out the rates, and then we got something to go from. Quick pause. I'd like to introduce you to the Log Files. The Log Files is a weekly newsletter to help you start your IT career with practical advice and tips powered by yours truly. We launched it in the beginning of the year. It's packed with actionable advice, resources, and insights to kickstart your IT journey. The link is in the description as well as pinned in the comments, so don't miss out. Now back to the episode. So the next thing after we figure out our services and our rates, the next thing is we want to target clients and then also get on freelance platforms. So basically the first thing I would do is look locally. So small businesses, medical offices. A lot of times I like to use medical offices because my background is healthcare. And coming from healthcare, one thing I found out is that a lot of these small medical offices may not be tied to a larger healthcare organization. So that's the opportunity, because if you got a medical office and they're not tied to the whatever the largest healthcare organization in your town is, that way you can go to them and pitch them to be their IT support. because most of the time, if they're small, they may only have that one office, or maybe their office done grew where they got 2 or 3 offices, but it's all handled independently. So you can go pitch them to be their IT person. And then also, like I said, you may have to redo their network. This is where I'm pretty sure if you're in networking, I'm talking from this on the perspective of, I'm thinking you already know the networking aspect because you asked to be a network engineer freelance. You have to do freelance and network engineering. So I would say you probably already got some experience with Ubiquity, which that's what a lot of MSPs, smaller IT organizations use to support their users. So you might put a Ubiquity device out there at a customer's location. That way you have access to it from wherever you got an internet connection. So the first thing I say with targeting clients, look locally. Any kind of small businesses, medical offices. If you think nowadays everyone needs IT support because every business is using some sort of PC. So everyone is a prospective, could be a client in this aspect. So look at the small businesses. Like I said, don't skip over the medical offices because if they're not tied to anything larger, they could be in need of some kind of IT support. And then with the freelance website. So there's 2 freelance websites I kind of like a little bit. I haven't had a chance to use them, but I surf on them all the time. One of them is Upwork. I noticed on Upwork, they have a lot of networking gigs available. So it could be a remote thing where some of them just want somebody to troubleshoot something on the network. Some of them may want some network configurations, but this is something to build up from where you could potentially help someone with a network configuration. You build that relationship. Now they come to you for all their networking needs. And then also the last one is something I did a video on a little bit, not just specifically on this app, but FieldNation. With FieldNation, like I said, I'm signed up on FieldNation. Just for me, usually the jobs never land on the days that I'm off. So I work during the week. So the jobs never end up on those weekends or anything like that. So I haven't had a chance to try them. But I do know they have a lot of networking gigs available. At least they do in my area, where it may be a cutover going on at a certain location. So this is something you can build up also, because in this game, you're building up relationships. And then, like I said, you start getting some of those local businesses, and then you supplement that with a little bit of FieldNation, a little bit of Upwork. I'm pretty sure there's other sites and apps out there. Matter of fact, if you're listening and you made it this far and you know some other apps or some other opportunities to help us out here, please leave it in the comments. But like I said, once you start to target your clients and get on these freelance platforms, then we can start getting some revenue coming in. Then my last tip would be, once you got everything going, you're starting to get some clients, the next step I would say would probably be to try to transition to a MSP, a managed service provider. And then this is where you can start to scale. So once you help the few clients and they keep coming back, that's when I start shifting from a freelancer to an MSP type deal. And then you'll be able to scale up a little bit more. And then along with this, you can start to offer monthly plans, like for basic support, security monitoring, just their overall IT support. You can put them on a monthly plan to where they're paying you monthly. You handle all their issues. And then this creates that recurring revenue, not just a one and done job. So with FieldNation, you might go do a job, but after that, you through. You got to wait on the next one. So we need that recurring revenue. And then if you want to go a little deeper, or you need some kind of structure, something, a plan to follow, a good book that was recommended to me from a friend that's in his own managed services business is a book called Managed Services in a Month: Build a Successful Modern Computer Consulting Business in 30 Days. And the author is, now y'all know I'm from the country, so I'm gonna butcher his last name, so I'm not even gonna try to say it. I'm gonna spell it out. But the first name is Carl, Karl. Last name is Palachuk. I also have this book linked in the bio, linked in my comments and things like that. So this is one book that one of my relatives that has his own managed services business recommended to me. And I started reading this book, and it actually makes sense. It actually lets you know the background, because one of the things for me, whenever I thought about going this route, is, okay, how does the background work? A lot of times I need some kind of framework which I can follow, which I know has been proven. But in this type of business, you hardly ever meet someone that's doing the same thing to show you that framework, what you can do. So like I said, this is a good book. I will link it in my comments, link it in the bio. Like I said, it will be an affiliate link. So if you do purchase it, it helps out the channel. Like I said, I hope that you get some value out of it, and I wish you the best. So that brings me to the end of this episode. Hopefully you found some value in this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, you can follow me at DebtFreeinIT. If you have any questions, you can email me at debtfreeinit@gmail.com, or you can visit me at debtfreeinitwithmike.com. Other than that, I'll see you next week. Peace.